Daf Yomi, Tractate Menachot, page 105b, about a line into it with the words V'oso asham ta'un shchita betzafon. V'oto asham ta'un shchita betzafon. Umatan bihonot usmicha unasachim utenufat chazeh v'shok. V'necha lizichre kivuna liyom elayla. And that uncertain guilt offering requires slaughter in the north of the temple courtyard, as does a guilt offering, and placement of the blood on the right thumb, the right big toe, and the right ear of the leper, as described in Leviticus 14:14, and requires placing hands on the head of the animal, and the accompanying wine libations, and waving of the breast and the thigh, as does a peace offering, and it is eaten by males of the priesthood for 1 day, and the following night like a guilt offering, and not for 2 days, and the intervening night like a peace offering. The Gemara relates to the problem that arises from this stipulation as treating an offering as two different types of offerings due to a stipulation can cause a situation where an offering is unduly disqualified. In the case of an offering that is sacrificed as both a peace offering and a guilt offering, if its meat is not eaten by dawn of the following day, it is disqualified even though it might be a peace offering which can be eaten for another day. The Gemara comments that even though a sage resolves this issue in the tractate of the slaughter of animals, in the chapter of the slaughter of animals being in Zvachim, in a manner that would not enable stipulation to be made in this case, C76b, there is a distinction between the case discussed there and the case discussed here. The resolution given there was, say that Rabbi Shimon said that in a case of uncertainty one may bring an offering and to stipulate with regard to its type ab initio only for the remedy of a man. For example, in order to purify a person from his uncertain stance as a leper, as there is no other way for him to purify himself, but in general after the fact after uncertainty arose. With regard to the status of a certain offering, that is indeed permitted to sacrifice the offering in a manner that may reduce the amount of time allotted for eating it, but one may not consecrate such an offering ab initio, which means l'chatchila. Hani mili gamishlamim dikamimayid bachiloson dehaveluhu kodashim lebeis absul. The Gemara explains why here it would nevertheless be permitted to make a stipulation ab initio. Nevertheless, this statement that one may stipulate with regard to an offering only after the fact applies only to a peace offering, as sacrificing it as a guilt offering reduces its allotted time for eating, which may bring sacrificial meat to the status of disqualification. But stipulation with regard to meal offerings, when one does not remember which type he vowed to bring, is permitted even ab initio, as this does not reduce its allotted time for eating. Therefore, the Mishnah could be in accordance with the opinion of Rabbi Shimon. Amalei Abaye, Amalei Abaye, Amalei Abaye, Rabbi Shimon Devar Mecharos, Umechzer Kignavi. Hakamais Yesaron Echad Mishnei Soin Velog Echad Mishnei Lugin. Rav Papa said to Abaye, how can you explain that the Mishnah could be in accordance with the opinion of Rabbi Shimon, who said that if one wants to bring half of his baked meal offering as loaves and half of it as wafers, he may bring it in that manner, as one can bring a meal offering of 10 loaves and 10 wafers and stipulate that some of them are brought in order to fulfill his obligation and the rest are a voluntary offering? That this cannot be, as the 20 loaves and wafers constitute a total of 2/10 of an eighth in volume, and must therefore be sanctified into separate service vessels. This causes a situation where one brings 1/10 of an ephah, which constitutes one meal offering, as fulfillment of the individual's obligation from 2 separate tenths of an ephah. And similarly, the 2 meal offerings require 2 log of oil, each of which is sanctified in a separate vessel. And it turns out that each meal offering includes 1 log of oil from 2 separate logs. Shamin and Leil Rabbi Shimon, Diamar im Hevi Isaron, Echad Mishnei Sroinois. Broig Echad Mishnei Luginyot. Abai answered, this is not difficult, as we have heard. That Rabbi Shimon said that if one brought 1/10 of an ephah as a meal offering from 2 separate tenths, and similarly if one brought 1 log of oil from 2 separate logs, he has fulfilled his obligation. Umi kamatz hechi kamatz. Divas divyamari chalos nechodaihu. Urikigen nechodaihu amri. Dika kamitzna michalos. Lihewea halos. Dika kamitzna merikigen lihewea rakikin. Imechsa rakikin imechsa chalos amri. Dika kamitzna. Mechalos lewe, mechalos mechserekikin, udikakamisna, merekikin mechserechalos. The Gemara asks, but how does one remove a handful from his meal offering, which consists of both loaves and wafers? The Gemara answers that he stipulates and says, if I specified in my vow that I would bring loaves only, or similarly, if I said that I would bring wafers only, let the handful that I remove from the loaves be for the loaves, and let the handful that I remove for the wafers be for the wafers. And if I said in my vow that I would bring a meal offering that is half wafers and half loaves, let the handful that I remove from the loaves be for the half the loaves and half the wafers, and let the handful that I remove from the wafers be for half the wafers and half the loaves. The Gemara challenges this suggestion. But if the vow was to bring a meal offering that is half loaves and half wafers, it requires removing 1 handful from the loaves to be continued.